order, we ready, Ron? All right, first order of business is approval of the minutes from last week. I had one thing that isn't right, but I don't know how to change it. So I'm looking for help here. On line 165. And it talks about Chief Morris talking about that the town welcomes 50,000 visitors a year. We
That's on a busy week.
I was gonna say, we had that last weekend.
Oh, easily, yes.
And I don't know what exactly he said, but the implication was that on any busy weekend, we could have 50,000 people in the valley, not necessarily in Lincoln, but in the valley.
Well, I think his intention was he was kind of being a little facetious.
Right.
We're not a small town. We are a town that welcomes 50,000 visitors. Yeah. Oh, that was, yeah. I would just leave it. That's the way he dressed the fact of whether to have a bigger fire department.
Yeah, but
I mean,
I don't think he said
police department.
50,000 visitors a year. He said, do we want to be a small town or do we want to be implying a big town, saying a town that welcomes 50,000 visitors at a time or on a busy weekend or something like that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Just 50,000.
50,000 a
It's a year
year.
thing,
I mean,
oh, yeah,
we'll have that
way
by
more.
January 3rd. And then
Change it to
yeah,
a
the whole
week.
rest of the year.
Just change it to a week. I mean,
Yeah, a
the
week.
implication is there, so
Yeah.
a week.
Or do you want to just that welcomes
50,000.
thousands of visitors,
I'll put 50,000.
thousands of visitors a year without a number?
A week.
Tens of thousands.
On
Tens
any
of
given week,
thousands?
thousands of visitors on any given week.
Okay.
Yeah, tens of thousands.
Just thousands of visitors on any
I would do
given
tens
week.
of thousands. Thousands, 5,000, 6,000,
Either way.
Well,
tens of
people-
thousands. People need to know that's
True.
true.
Nope.
50,000.
All right. Anything else?
I'll make a motion to.
Oh, wait a minute, I
Oh,
do,
go
I
ahead.
do have something. It said the board agreed to appoint a selectmen's representative when they appoint the committee members. I thought you were gonna talk to me about that tonight,
Yeah.
but they're gonna, that's what they decided. I didn't hear that.
Wait a minute. What line are you on?
On line 193.
Yeah, we'll do it when we appoint the committee members.
We agreed that we would be appointing a selectman's rep,
Right.
and that we would do that when we appoint the committee members, we appoint the whole committee at once. Isn't that what we
I
decided?
didn't hear that piece, but that's all right.
That's what- yeah,
Yeah, that's what
That's
I
my
thought.
recollection.
Okay. Line 213, to Burbank added at the end of the second week of the ban, I thought it was, the water usage had dropped 150,000 gallons in average. So it was the second week, it was 100 the first weekend, was 150 the second.
I put what he said. He could have done
It was,
something else.
to my recollection, it was the second.
Whatever the tape said, I
I
don't
listened to
recall
that
how it
tape
said.
a lot.
Well, Dave, how many did we drop the first week?
100,000.
Right around, it's been right around
100,000, and the second was
100 to
150.
150.
Anywhere, yeah. That's a good way to put it.
That per day.
Because I don't recall, so whatever the
That's
tape
per
said.
day.
So the water usage had dropped 100 to 150 gallons each week.
150,000.
The
Thousand.
water, right,
Hold on.
Daily.
What line are you on?
213.14.
That's daily, not weekly.
Right.
Burbank added that
Since the ban,
since the ban.
water usage has dropped
100 to
150,000 gallons
per
per day.
Per day.
Yeah. Averaging 700 gallons a week,
700,000.
Gallons a
a
day.
day. Thank you.
So you're just gonna take the 100,000 and say it's 150,000.
Because I don't
Herbert
remember.
added that since the ban,
Water usage,
water usage has dropped 100 to 150.
1,000 gallons.
Anything else?
No. No.
Motion to accept.
As amended, so moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All
There
right.
you go.
With non-publics.
I will make a motion to accept the non-public meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
right, next on the agenda is a motion that we approved last week to appeal the ZBA variance request regarding the decision the ZBA made on 11's Queen Way. We told our attorney about that decision, and he had further investigated it between the time he talked to us before the meeting and then the next day. And actually, I just watched watched that section of the video that was in question. And I don't have the letter. We don't have the
Oh, I
print,
don't
do
have
we?
a problem, but basically,
You guys both saw the letter, right?
I
And
believe Mr. Bowden had standing, number one, but number two,
right, which is why he sent it to us to appeal, really, not Paul. But then in looking at it, it was his feeling that the ZBA looked at each of those 5 criteria.
Yeah.
That the engineer representing the applicant expressly asked about the 5 criteria.
Right.
And although they did not vote, have a yes or no vote on each of the 5, that they all expressed agreement with all 5 of those, and they went around the table, I guess, and said that, and that he feels that they met that requirement of recognizing each of the 5 criteria and voting on them. Even though they didn't vote with 5 votes, they voted with 1.
Did you watch it?
Do you want me to
I
read
didn't watch
the-
it. I
Did
just
you
read his
watch
letter.
it?
I did, and that's what,
I'm gonna forward
All
it.
right.
so there's no doubt in my mind, the vast majority of the ZBA voted knowingly with Ray DeMonte, obviously being one of them, that they understood 5 and did good, and they moved the motion. That's just what the words were, let's move the question. And the vote was as it was, so, with 1 dissenter.
Do you want me to read this?
So if I watch
Yeah, if you have it,
that's what I
if you have
said.
it up, I just.
This is the email from Peter Malley, dated 9/29. I took a look at the video of the ZBA meeting as well as the application itself. The applicant provided answers to each of the various criteria questions. At the meeting, the board members spent quite a bit of time discussing the retaining wall. The board then voted to conditionally approve the variance application. RSA 674-33 IC says that a ZBA should use the same voting method each time they vote on a variance application. For example, if they vote on each of the variance criteria separately, then they should always vote that way. If they don't vote on each of the criteria separately, but instead just vote to approve or deny the variance, then they should always use that method. If they want to change voting methods, then the statute says that a voting method change could not take place until 60 days after the board votes to make that change to the other method. The method used by the Lincoln ZBA in this case was consistent with the voting method which they have always used, which is to vote on the variance application, not on each of the variance criteria separately. The one thing that the board did not do in this case, which they normally do, is to discuss the variance criteria, even though they are not voting on each of them. This is advisable, discussing each of the variance criteria, but it is not a fatal flaw that requires a reconsideration. Therefore, I do not think that it is necessary for the select board to file a motion for a hearing, because ultimately the board utilized the same voting method as they always do. And I forwarded that to you so you have it.
I like to make a motion. Is that all right? A
Yeah.
motion based on town manager's decision. He reviewed the video, so based on Butch's decision, I will make it a motion to amend decision.
It was based on Peter Malley's.
Peter Malley, that
Oh,
was
that was
Peter
Peter
Malley.
Malley.
Oh,
Peter Malley is the town council.
I just forwarded.
Input, yeah.
all right, well,
So
Peter
So
Malley.
a motion to withdraw our decision to appeal the ZBA.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Did you get that?
Oh, I have.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And I did just want to make it clear that Peter, at least in my opinion, Peter didn't advise us one way and then change his mind. The first advice was that the letter asking it for it to be appealed came in from Paul Bowden.
Right.
And Peter's opinion to us was that he didn't have standing in the case. In other words, in order to appeal a decision, you have to have standing, either be in a butter or something.
Yeah.
And he wasn't, but that the board could do it. And he
I
wasn't
gotcha.
saying that we could or should do it, but if it was to be done, this is where it has to happen. It
Gotcha.
was after our inquiry that he then watched the tape and advised us that we really didn't need to do that, at least while you read the letter. So, thanks, Peter. All right, next on the agenda is One Love Brewery, looking to extend your liquor license into the village shops. Do you want to come up and tell us what's going on?
All right, I'm Jennifer. And we're looking to,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hi, Renee.
Can you tell me your position over there, please?
we're co-owners.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we're co-owners and we feel that this summer went exceptionally well with our outdoor space and we're grateful to use that. So we're looking forward to planning a purposeful, cohesive plan for crowd control going into the winter months with the exponential growth in tourism that we've been experiencing. So it was really helpful for us to have that outdoor space and be able to really corral people, socially distance them. So we're looking to do that in the mall. We have an area that we have permission to rent from the landlord that will be petitioned off, that the liquor commissioner will come and inspect. So we just don't want everyone willy-nilly wandering all over the mall like crazy people.
With
So
50,000 people at a time, where do we put these people?
we're grateful to have that space and we're just looking for approval to find a socially acceptable, cohesive plan to move forward into the winter.
Trying to be proactive.
Yeah.
You know, every restaurant in town is facing the same thing. Somebody better have a plan in place. We're just trying to get that done now.
Well, I understand, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We follow the CDC regulations, so you have to follow those regulations.
Absolutely.
And I think Ron always looks after that and make sure that's.
I think this will be your first request of the current town's extension expires Monday.
Yeah, Monday.
Oh, yeah,
Monday,
that's
no
right.
more
Because
outdoor
So
seating.
all the outdoor stuff expires, so I'm sure that we'll have folks in the first in, so.
Yeah.
We still are under the COVID, but still, so the board has the authority to grant this with time limits, extensions. Inside the mall area, really is a owner-tenant thing.
Right.
As long as the commission rules and life and safety thing, I think it's kind of a no-brainer, but it's up, obviously.
I think here because it doesn't flow with the.
Well, it doesn't fit in any of my
Because of site plan
things that
review,
I can
because
bless.
it's indoor, so I don't understand. Is it just that it doesn't go with their site plan?
Well,
Right,
the
what-
mall is already approved for retail.
Right.
Right.
They're extending out into what is normally common area, but
The whole
the
way.
owner of the mall has busted.
Yeah.
I guess they're actually renting this space.
Which was why I questioned, why are we even involved?
Well,
Well, there's a question, it's a fine line, and I think to be clean.
I gotcha.
realistically,
I kind of
they're
advise them.
expanding their
Make it.
their
I
space.
gotcha.
But you're involved, so we
Yeah.
could be good neighbors.
Site plan, yeah.
Yeah, it would trigger site plan
I gotcha.
in a
That makes
typical.
Does that
That
mean
makes
you'll be
sense.
going inside?
It's kind of like the waiting area.
Will
Then
the,
go back in, you're gonna continue to serve outside all over the house.
well, we were also wondering too, I don't know if a lot of people in town knew that the deadline was Monday. And if that, with the weather being good, if that's something that could possibly be extended until the weather got a little colder. Because I mean, we're in a good position, but a lot of other restaurants may not know that, for them to lose all their outdoor, speaking on their behalf, is probably gonna be a hardship.
Well,
Tonight,
I think the hotel pretty well, 'cause
Yeah.
there's a lot of people around and,
Yeah.
and I live right in town, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most people are doing
That's
that.
something that would be.
But I would,
I think it, I
with the
think it's,
outside and the inside, I would wait. Let's get rid of the outside and then we'll expand it.
We're not planning to do this until the outside's gone, because I don't think the capacity, right now, when it's cold out, we're bringing people into the mall.
Right.
And we're not seating outside, it's too cold for them, and we weren't able to obtain propane heaters. So bringing them in is something that we've just started, and we're like, wow, like, we really need a really good way to keep them all separate. So we were planning on having it come into effect in like 2 or 3 weeks after we do close outside, because that's just too much for us to manage.
How much space do you get? It's a huge building.
It is a huge
What's the
building.
footage of that building?
It's
That building is 11,000 square foot,
Yeah.
but a lot of it is not usable space per se. And we relied in the past on having our bars full. That's where we put people. That's where they wait.
Yeah.
And that concept is now dead.
Yeah, we're not,
So
What's the CDC at? 35% you can fill it, or where are
I
they
think
at?
we're still doing 50.
You doing
We're
50?
doing
you know,
50.
with social, with the
Yeah,
6 feet.
required.
Yeah.
So it's not really,
It's not that big.
you know, we've been very conservative in what we are doing. We realize this is the problem. We have seen other restaurants and what they have done, and we've taken what we've liked and disliked and formed our own.
Right.
We have the capacity to safely put more people in there, but we have chosen not to.
We want people to feel safe.
We've
Yeah.
chosen not to sit, we're allowed to seat people at our bar with certain rules. We have not done that.
Right.
That's just not what we want. We're part of this epidemic too, you know?
We want people to come up to this town and feel welcome and feel, I think it's difficult for a lot of people to come up and go to all the restaurants being on an hour and a half wait. We want people to come back and enjoy their time and also feel like they're being taken care of. So that's our main objective, is to kind of oversee the facility management in a really responsible way that, they may not like waiting that long, but they know that it's going to be safe for them and
Yeah.
it's going to be a pleasant
And that's
experience.
what's happening in our town right now, is we have so many people that we don't have the infrastructure and restaurants, entertainment and things for people to do. And then with this new problem, it's even worse. So your families are coming up and they're on an hour and a half wait. They look at us like, well, I got kids. What do I do?
And that necessarily won't go away, but at least we can offer.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just the whole state is in the same.
Yeah,
predicament,
it
actually.
is.
I think doing it, which causes the least harm to the most people, I think is really important too. And I know the locals like their gazebo and they like their,
Yeah.
no one's been going there all summer long. So I think they have done a lot.
Yeah.
For you guys.
Absolutely.
And I've heard from them regarding that. So, and that's who I represent too, not only the businesses.
Mhm.
So that's why I said it'd be nice to clear that up.
Yeah.
And go back in there and hopefully we'll
Absolutely.
have to go through this next summer.
And we're also anticipating too, with the winter, that the mall may become more of a hub, because there's, with other activities being limited, families might go and walk around more and, find other things to do, which could be, yeah.
We agree, we hope.
Yeah.
So just logistically, so I can understand, you're looking to expand and get a liquor license for that space that's like outside of your restaurant down the few stairs?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's separated in two. There's a ramp on one side,
Mhm,
concrete wall with plants,
mhm.
and then there is a shop with a door, glass wall.
Mhm.
It's- No, not the barber shop. It was
It used to
that,
be Live a Little Fitness. and that
Right,
was the
okay,
future, yeah.
so on the bottom, it's
So-
underneath the barber shop, but over a little
it
bit.
was stopped before then, so we don't impede upon our neighbors. Okay,
Okay,
so it's really a small little area
okay.
that's gonna have some seating area.
Is this gonna be entrance to the door? And then
So you come to the main entrance and you have to go up these stairs to One Love.
Or to get the other way down the ramp?
No, it would be in front of the ramp. You could use, the ramp goes like
The
parallel
ramp,
to
the
it.
ramp will not be utilized.
Yeah.
That's gonna be
Access.
access to anybody.
Okay.
Kind
So-
of has like a horseshoe seating area on the main level when you walk in,
Mhm.
and you have stairs,
Yeah.
and a ramp right adjacent for the
Yeah.
handicap. So he's gonna keep full width access from the stairway
Uh-huh. Out.
and sweeping
Okay,
around
okay.
to the double door exits.
Yep, yep.
But there'll be a petition or a
Okay,
makeshift delineated
perfect.
area in that horseshoe, and maybe down a little bit,
Great
steps
idea.
to another flat area right there.
It'll be controlled. There'll be somebody there at all points. There'll be a host table on the opposite side to control the crowd going into the restaurant and into the waiting area.
So it'll be above those stairs
No,
where the ramp is.
Yep.
Where the ramp is, those stairs going down where Live a Little was.
Yes.
It'll be above those stairs and it won't impede the door.
It will not impede the door. It will not impede the other tenants. Matter of fact, I think that will actually help the other tenants too. And if if that empty spot becomes another child facility activities, that will only help them as well.
And there is another restaurant occupying upstairs come December too.
Jimmy
so-
C's, and they're gonna experience the same problem because there's zero waiting room
Yeah.
up there. The old Texas Toast,
Yeah,
there's no waiting room up there. In the
Right.
past, they would clog, they would clog and plug up that whole corridor.
Right.
And that can't happen these days.
Right.
So
That's scheduled open December, be ready about upstairs in December, you say?
yeah, they clean the hoods right now, right, you can see the trucks.
yeah.
So that will
Yeah.
only help that company as
Sure.
well.
That's exciting to see them all connected. I was-
Are you talking about the inside in the door, that area there?
Yeah, there's like a bunch of little plants and then there's stairs going up to Jimmy C's. So
Those
it's that
old
area
church
there.
pews.
Yeah, like right below the barber shop right there.
Yep.
In there. And
Yeah.
we're also expanding to do some retail into the barber shop. We're assuming his lease for a few months. Not that that's
So
here or there.
will the stairs going up to
They will
where
be blocked.
they won't be
It will be
blocked?
blocked
It'd
at
be like
all.
under the
So,
stairs.
Nor will
I
the
have a-
stairs coming
Oh, you
down.
really can't see
the other
on the
side.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
looking and trying
Diagram's
to
not
figure it out,
great.
but it wasn't.
Yeah. It's not really that sophisticated.
And that's okay.
Ron, you had your hand up, I
So-
want to get your input.
Yeah.
So earlier, you were talking about capacity and all that stuff. They're operating at a lot less capacity than they normally would be, so they probably more just an administrative thing because there's no need for site plan. They're not adding or gonna have to show the need for more parking because they have a reduced capacity to begin with.
Right?
And we're in the COVID situation. so-
Yeah, well, the only question I have is you're not utilizing your whole space, which you have a huge amount of room.
We're not utilizing it because of this pandemic.
Well,
Once the
I
pandemic's
understand that,
gone, then we can utilize it.
But out here, you have people like 6 feet apart, or the tables are pretty close too, so I don't get the concept of why, how come it's not in there, because that's outdoors, is that what you're thinking, then it's safer outdoors?
No, outdoors is definitely spaced 6 feet
Oh,
apart.
I know, I said,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's outdoors and indoors, you're afraid that it's not 6 feet apart wouldn't be enough?
We're having difficulty convincing people to follow the rules, wear their masks. Restrooms, there's a lot of
Yeah.
things, so there's a lot of patrolling and policing inside.
Yeah.
And so I think if you look at a space and it's spatially spread out, it reminds people, we do police them often, but it's unpleasant to constantly be like, put on a mask, where's your mask?
And indoors, we've removed
So-
a large amount of tables.
And I think for us too, we're not comfortable with crowds. If you have a party of 12, you split them up, they're still gonna congregate, it's human nature. So we're trying, at least outdoors, like, all right,
Right.
you're outdoors, so.
Yeah.
We have a lot of large groups that typically come up in the winter, so we're really trying to anticipate everything we can.
So how are you gonna keep them away when they're drinking and standing up?
We are not allowing people standing and drinking.
They have to be
Oh, they have to
seated.
seat
They
in
have to
that
be
and one of the
seated.
pews
Yep.
or one of the chairs.
And it's difficult,
So
they don't know.
that's something
rules.
else you have to monitor. I
Yeah.
think I'd rather deal with face masks inside.
Yeah, but that's totally up to you.
That's right.
We want people to
There'll be a
feel they're
monitor
safe.
there. All summer, we've been doing this all summer. Folks, I need you to stand 6 feet back. Folks, I need you to wear your mask. It's just repetitive, and that's not gonna change. It's actually very difficult.
Yes, it is, yeah.
And
They didn't do it in the gazebo, they weren't 6 feet apart.
the gazebo wasn't my domain.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
that's town property.
We had music
I thought music is gazebo.
only on Thursday
What
nights
was
for
using
music,
it
and
for?
we discontinued
Everyone's sitting
that.
there waiting to get into.
It wasn't, it was people
Just
using
folks that
people using
wandered
the
over.
gazebo. It wasn't
They're like
like
us town
Yeah.
people using the gazebo as they
Yeah.
always have.
People having ice cream, things like that.
It was waiting, they were waiting to go to eat, but
That
that
might be
maybe,
true, but that
it's
wasn't under,
true.
but
Yeah.
that was under my
gazebo
umbrella.
wasn't,
Okay, maybe we should have looked at that a little bit.
We were very strict too about alcohol consumption, anything.
Yeah, I
There's a
saw the sign.
Sign right there, it's all roped off.
So, well, that's-
So,
Yeah.
I just think that, I think they're the first ones in, but we should be thinking about, well, two things. I see no reason not to agree with what they're asking for first, but second of all, we should, the extension from the 12th to when would be the
Yeah.
winter, because the winter, we're gonna get a run. I'll guarantee you, Gordy's is gonna be in here, maybe the C-Man.
Yeah.
Other folks over here, I don't know what they're gonna do, but you can see where this is going.
Right.
It's gonna be a challenge.
I think weather's gonna predict it, if we could say, until
Halloween.
through the month of October, or until November 15th. However, I've been many Halloweens that I put snowsuits on underneath the kids' Halloween costumes. You're not eating outside of that. Yeah. So, and then there's also been November 12th, which is a friend of mine's birthday, that we were outside in short sleeve shirts. So it's a toss up, you know, you just don't know.
People are gonna occupy that space whether we monitor or not.
Right.
And if this doesn't come to fruition, it's not our responsibility to monitor people in a common space that we don't pay for.
Right.
And that's gonna be full of people. Full of people. Because there's nowhere else for them to sit and wait. The bars are closed.
Right, you're anticipating a waiting line problem.
They're having it right now.
We
You
have it
already
now.
have one now, and you're outside. When you all move inside, it's gonna even be worse. So you're anticipating a problem and you're developing a solution to it. Or at least in a,
Right.
we won't solve it, but it will help make it less.
And we're trying to do this in the proper steps.
Right.
We've talked to the chief, we've talked to the Hampton Roads Commission.
Yeah.
And as I say, that's a good neighbor, we're trying to get a step and come here.
Yeah.
And we're not alone. Everybody's got to figure something out.
Chief,
And- yeah.
you talked to the police?
Oh.
Officer
Chad, did you have any?
Chad, do you have anything to add to this?
I don't even know if you were,
Are you aware of this?
I came in late, so I apologize. I did
Okay.
not hear
All
what,
right. All right.
okay, One Love Brewery looking to expand their liquor license out into the common space and use that for an indoor waiting area in anticipation of the winter business.
And seating, eating.
No eating.
No,
No,
eating.
Just wait.
Waiting, yeah.
so how big is that indoor space?
Less than the size of this room.
Oh, far less.
Far left, yeah.
Yeah, half the
That's-
size.
Just to serve cocktails while waiting for.
Yeah, overflow.
They're gonna get it licensed.
Yeah, they'll need to go to the liquor
Get it
commission.
licensed.
Right.
And
25 people.
and how will that,
It'll be, you have barriers that we're gonna put up to delineate the space.
And it'll be monitored.
Yeah, it'll be more stuff out there.
sounds,
Yeah.
I agree.
And Ron, did you have any comments?
No, I've already checked it out.
Okay,
The liquor commissioners has a law that firmly states that when you have a petition for alcohol and you cross that petition, you know, willingly knew you crossed that petition. It could be this line of tables.
Yeah.
And I moved that table to get out. I knowingly did that.
Right.
So it could be a rope,
right.
and I just hopped over the rope.
And big trees. So we're gonna do big trees and some ropes and stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hopefully lemon trees.
I think it's, yeah. I think it's a great idea.
Seriously.
Thank you.
They
love
smell
it.
it. I love it.
Yeah.
Orange trees, too.
All right,
Do you need a motion?
any more discussion?
Well, I just wonder if it does get unruly, can we do something about it or no? This is a motion and it would
Chad's
fall under
role.
your domain if
Chad's role,
something gets unruly and.
I'm thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
And the liquor commission.
State law, the commission, with speed dial, so,
Okay,
I mean, I'm not saying that in a negative way, I'm just saying if
Oh,
they
yeah.
come and investigate, then that's.
Yeah.
okay.
You know, kind of
All right.
maybe things administratively.
Good to know,
I
thank
think
you.
what we're looking for is a letter from the town with permission.
Once we get that, we have a form letter.
Well,
I
if
just
we-
wanted to run it through here.
Yeah, yeah.
We have a form letter that I'll sign.
And if we make a
Chad,
motion,
sorry.
it'll be in the official minutes as well,
Sorry.
right? Which is
There
a
you
legal
go.
document.
What this, what they usually like to do is, because you're getting an extension on your liquor permit, is just send me an email to
Okay.
town hall. So I have something in writing specific with what you want, and then I'll put that letter together, and I'll tell you to pick it up, and I use that as my backup
Okay.
paperwork, for officially coming and.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
So,
Did you want a motion?
yeah, I would say we should do a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve for the One Love Brewery to extend their waiting area out into the hallway as discussed tonight.
You want to put a
Yes.
Through,
time March.
I'm just trying to think, this is through the last day of March 31st, is it 30th?
And
31
or
days
the
of March?
end of COVID.
Or, say that again?
The end of COVID.
Right, the last day of March, which I believe is 31 days, trying to think in my head. Or when the governor's order is rescinded, whichever comes first.
Okay. What about like April and May? April's not that busy, but you might want this in May.
Yeah.
So we're at, so the mountain closed traditionally on the 19th of April, and we
Oh,
saw,
gotcha.
we saw a spike in business up until that point, and it's the last week of April and then May, everything drops.
Well,
Okay.
I don't know, everything's
I
different.
say, I've seen it snow on Memorial Day too.
We don't
Yeah.
know.
So
So-
what do we how about June 15? Because
No,
that'll
that'd be
take them
great.
right through till they can get outside again,
What do we-
if we're still in this predicament.
I think I'd like to keep it at March or the executive order,
Uh,
so we can look at it again.
Well, I think if you.
If we
do-
go June 15th, that'll get them up until they can go back outside if
You
we're
make the
still in the
COVID-
same, yeah,
The COVID, governor's orders covering COVID
right.
as the primary, but no
Right.
later than whatever date you want to pick. But
I
the
would, whatever
governor's-
comes
the
first.
COVID
I think the COVID should run that.
should run.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah. But then put in all no later than date. Or
No later than.
Until the governor's COVID
Whatever you
date
decide.
order is
So-
rescinded or ends,
If the
or no
governor's-
later
right.
than
So if the government orders.
Whatever.
June 15th.
Ends, then that ends. Then that ends.
And then,
But if it doesn't end, and we're in this for 3 more years.
June 15th, you know,
June-
visit.
It will be,
my motion is
Election
June
day.
15th,
June 15th,
yeah.
doesn't matter, but if the executive orders end, then
Then Correct.
And then we have to
Whichever
reapply
comes
again
first.
to be outside again.
Correct.
Go through that
June
first, so
15th.
that we're not just gonna
If we're
automatically.
consistent, then everyone on or about June 15th would back in.
Right.
Right,
So I'm just gonna
Hopefully
repeat the
it's
motion.
cured.
okay.
That we allow One Love Brewery to extend the waiting area out into the hallway as described today until the governor's COVID order, I don't remember what number it is it has expired, or June 15th, whichever comes first. June 15th of 2021, whichever comes first.
Does that make sense?
That's great.
Yes.
Any
We do have a 6-month lease though, so say, not that it would, but say the governor's orders ended, I don't know, March or February. Would that mean that we would have to disassemble it?
Yes, go back inside.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The governor.
Basically, it's saying that you can then go fill your
Okay.
bars to
So you-
Yeah,
maximum
all right, that makes
capacity.
sense.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, when
I
the
get it.
governor's order is lifted, you're back to 100%.
Yeah. Or they may
Right.
go to 75% too.
Right,
Then it-
that's gonna be up to us.
Then
at
that's
that
still a
point.
governor's order.
Hopefully we don't go down to
That's still
zero.
an order.
Right.
Yeah, but As far as the town is concerned,
Okay.
you're being driven by.
The
governor's standing orders.
COVID pandemic orders.
All right, a motion and second, all those in favor?
Second.
Aye,
I
all right.
Great,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
I'd like
everybody.
to, while you're still here, also discuss, because they brought up something very important. Next Monday, all the outside seating is done. We don't meet Monday. So if somebody comes forward and says, look,
We should- Right, we should vote on that tonight if we're
Exactly.
inclined to extend it.
which I would be inclined to
I've
accept,
seen no problems with it.
it's working.
I don't know if
Well, if you wanted to, just thinking out loud, I mean, you set a standard here tonight.
Not everybody
It's not
has
gonna
hallway
fit everybody.
space. Right.
I'm looking across the street because they don't have the luxury of a closed waiting room, but
I
I'm just saying, if you want to be consistent, I mean.
I think extending into common areas would have to be on a case-by-case basis. However, the existing outside seating, like, and I'm gonna throw the Mexican restaurant over
Charo.
there, they have heaters outside. They have some couple of those heaters outside. It's working for them. They could easily go through middle of November if the weather holds. And I-
Exactly. What we're
Yeah.
experiencing is, we're experiencing lovely days, and as soon as 4:30 hits, that sun
Exactly.
hits behind that mountain, and it's too cold, and we shut down the entire
Right.
front.
People have heaters, yeah, you're right.
Right. They have heaters
And
in,
that
it's kind of
investment
enclosed, and
It's
it's
been
working.
tremendous.
Can we think about it and we vote at the end of the, talk more about it later? What we're talking about now, we want to vote on it.
I'd like to finish the
I mean-
conversation and vote on it, honestly.
We can't do it next week and then the following week be too late. I'd rather do it now.
How do you feel
I
about
mean,
Give
November
us a
15th?
chance if you.
November
if you guys
15th
could
works?
I
discuss
just,
it.
what are your concerns, Jane? Just want to think about it. for a second. All right, we just got done with this. Okay,
That's all.
then
That's all
we'll
I wanted to
bring
do.
it up later in the meeting.
Can, I'd just like to add to, like, a lot of businesses have invested a tremendous amount of money in their outdoor space, and we weren't fortunate enough to get patio heaters, but I mean, those things are anywhere from $300 to $600 each, and it'd be difficult for, difficult for these businesses who are just trying to keep momentum, to have that taken away so soon when it can be extended.
A company like El Charles, they could really
They're doing a
benefit.
great job, everyone's doing such a good job.
I agree, and, you know, far as I know, there's been no problems, and you're right, whether it's fencing, tables, umbrellas, rope, signs,
Right.
there's been a lot of money invested
Yeah.
into supporting a much smaller customer base, even with the outside.
All the disposable goods, even the trash pickups double because of all the
Yeah.
disposables.
We've tried so hard to cut down our carbon footprint, and now we just shot it through the roof. And
Yeah, I
and
know,
it just really hurts.
everybody.
So I guess just speaking for the other restaurants in town. Great, all right.
All right,
Well,
thanks for
Thank
coming
you,
in.
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you, I appreciate
Have a
luck.
good
that.
night.
Thank
Ow.
you.
You're welcome, thanks.
Good luck.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, next on the agenda, give an update on Halloween.
We meet tomorrow night with the Woodstock Board of Selectmen.
Who does?
We do,
All of us?
Yeah,
via Zoom at
fine.
5 PM.
So Zoom.
Jane Leslie emailed the link to us.
I know.
You don't have to be there.
I'm
it
just
doesn't matter.
pretending to be.
The Cheryl Reardon Terra Tower and I have come up with a flyer that also got emailed for your preview for safe Halloween guidelines, safe Halloween. And I mean, we went, participated in the
That
Zoom.
flyer you got in there was,
Yeah.
was
Yeah, and it's,
an HMA presentation, prime, I don't know.
it was NHMA.
An HMA.
And it's, they pretty much said that, no one wants to cancel Halloween. How can we do it safely? So we've come up with some thoughts and ideas of how we can do it safely. You have that flyer emailed to you. We'll meet tomorrow night, figure out how to get it out to everybody. I mean, the majority of the board two boards were already not in favor of canceling for the freedom. So that's that. Tomorrow night will be the final decision, but I'm going to assume that trick or treating will go on as planned and we will hand out flyers and.
Are we going
put them
before
on Facebook.
other issue they have regarding
I believe so.
shooting range?
The agenda, I do, with the
Or
agenda,
before that? Okay.
I think we're first.
um,
I think the whole thing first.
What? You don't want to get involved in their drama?
no, I,
Come on, I want to be
I
funny with
have
someone
work to do
else.
for the next day for my other job.
I looked at the agenda.
oh, no, it's not
So-
on here. We're last, Jane.
Oh, we are? Oh,
No,
no.
I'm kidding.
Oh,
We're first.
All right.
We are first, even before the minutes.
I would not hear. They have a good group over there. Those locals get out there.
All right, so that's tomorrow. We're gonna
Yes.
deal with that. Now,
If you didn't get the flyer or didn't get the link, let me know.
is that what this is?
No.
That's just the.
No, that was the NHMA presentation.
Did you send out the flyer with the agenda for tomorrow?
No,
at the
Tara
meeting?
Tower sent out the flyer.
I sent the agenda for Woodstock,
All
Halloween
right, just
flyer.
forward
the
it to me.
Halloween flyer, I didn't see it yet.
Forward that. Oh,
That's what it looks like.
I didn't get.
I didn't see
Okay.
that either.
Cheryl
I
was
got it, you know.
finished.
I think it's been at least in draft form because Tara had a stack. of them
Oh,
carrying
she's
them
waiting
around.
to hear back from you.
From me?
Yep. I haven't, before I want to send it out to both boards prior to tomorrow night's meeting, so they get a chance to review it. I haven't heard back from him yet.
Well, you just, hello, send it. I don't,
I'm sending
I
it.
thought I was just being courteous and get a copy.
Yeah,
Well,
okay, got it. So,
yes,
yeah.
send it.
Okay, I'm
Tell
sending
her,
it.
send it.
Okay,
Yeah.
reply.
All right.
I'm gonna reply right now, sorry.
The other thing I wanted you to talk about is the skiing at the Kank Rec. Has that been discussed with Recreation?
Recreation has their,
Been discussing it for weeks.
a
Yeah.
couple, few weeks. Right now, I've kind of signed off on just bathrooms open. It'll be announced, when it's open to the outside. And if they do anything, it'll be candy through a walk-up window from the outside. The lodge, for a better word, the lodge will be closed.
Well, the
That's pretty
after-school
much.
program is in there, so that the skiing kids are not gonna be allowed in, so we can keep these kids in their pods. There's 2 grades, or 2 groups at the community center, so that they're staying in their own pods, they're calling it at school. And then there's 2 grades at the Kank, one downstairs, one upstairs, inside after-school program. They will be allowed to go out back and to the playground, which we're gonna keep cordoned off from the skiers so that the pods aren't mixing. Does that make
Okay,
sense?
Yeah,
And East Branch Builders is going to install a window with a counter so we can give tickets or sign kids in and sell candy, because that's important. There will be no lunches.
No
You bring your own lunch. It'll be in 2-hour increments, 10 to noon on weekends, and then 1 to 3 or something, and so that, and if it's 10 degrees or below, there'll be no skiing. Those are kind of some of the things. Also, East Branch Builders has agreed to install a door with a window between where the after-school kids will be and where the bathrooms are, so that there aren't kids congregating in that little hallway. You can see it. There's kids waiting. If there's someone waiting to go to the bathroom, don't go in
through the
there.
door.
And there'll be the window going, the door going outside also has a window, and they'll be told the same thing. So those are some of the things that are being.
So one of the things that I stressed to Tara is obviously the bathroom usage and then the disinfection is going to be a challenge. But if they want to open, they're going to have to deal with it, whether it's extra staff every hour or so, or however it works.
Better exhaust fans are gonna go in as well.
So
And Jim
So-
Martin's
so-
gonna help with all that.
Is it safe to say we're going to have skiing at the Kank
I would say it's safe to say we're going to have skiing.
with some
With some,
changes?
it isn't going to
in-
look like years past,
in
and I haven't heard any pushback from the regulars, other than they concur. I mean, I made it clear that my responsibility is that people are safe there, and I think they're taking all the steps they can. Vicky Martin was well on point
Mhm.
with all her points, and
Great.
she certainly, if anybody knows the ramifications of not being safe. So I think we can safely say there will be skiing, albeit reduced hours and all the stuff you just heard, I think. And it should be finalized shortly. But there will be skiing.
Okay, so we
We'll
can,
have anarchy if we don't.
I don't see any reason not to. I
But
mean,
even-
I agree.
But
I
I would-
I
agree.
think Vicky did a
Yes.
great job, and I'll say it again, I think I said it last week, to thank her, but I hadn't read her email at that point.
No, Ron and
But
I had a
Her email was excellent.
brief meeting with Jace Gambio and on a bunch of things, but one of them is what's the ski season going to look like there. But what they're going through here at our little ski area is going on in much bigger scale. And it's not going to look anything, ski season at these ski resorts going to look anything like what it did.
Right.
Nothing, other than come in your car, probably be dressed when you get there, put your boots on, go skiing, and then go. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, everywhere.
With the exception that there's going to be some small chances, no inside bathrooms. They're bringing in portable bathrooms. That's 3 different tractor trailer bathrooms at 3
Right.
different spots around the ski resort. So, and it's still in the works. Although I heard that there's the government, they just released the guidance, the official guidance from the committee, the
Opening.
Oh,
opening
right,
committee
right, yeah.
to the governor. I heard that just got released. So
Okay.
it'll be interesting
Alright.
to see what those
So
guidelines
bottom line is, the Kank is gonna open for
Yes.
skiing under revised
under.
procedures, which are being worked on and
Right,
seem to be reasonable.
Yep.
yeah.
All
The
right.
other thing was not selling day tickets. I just can't think that over.
Parties breathe better than a real restaurant.
I guess they
There's a little vent
pumping
up
it,
there.
all the leaves.
It's the ones they use that the house.
Oh, the big one.
The
The
big,
ski potties.
Oh, okay.
They're all heated. It's all heated.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Ventilated,
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, those are a whole big step up from porta potties. So I would imagine, Yeah. yeah, I'm No, those are
They're-
nice.
they're
Okay.
absolutely- So
Yeah, interesting. All
I
right.
had mentioned heaters at the Kank, and that was a very good point was brought up, that heaters attract close together.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so heaters ain't always
And
the
see,
answer.
I was thinking it would be great for the parents that are watching the kids, because there's a lot of parents don't drop their kids off.
But
they
you
stand
still-
there and
yeah,
watch.
You tend to get close, and that's
But if you're outside with a mask on,
dress for skiing. It's the outdoor experience.
I've got enough kids that can watch the well, I shouldn't say that.
Somebody was delivering candy in a big pipe, and put the candy in.
That's what they're talking
Oh, that's a good idea.
Shoot it out
That's
into-
awesome.
I love that
I
there was a
know.
town that did a contest to see who came up with the most creative way to socially distance hand out candy. There was one that a guy had a drill attached to pulleys with like a clothesline with a ghost on it that was holding, and it had a spot for a beer for the parent and candy for the kids. And with a drill would go back and forth. It was hysterical.
It just smacks of trouble.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure that was just off the show, but it was, I thought it was some of the ideas that they were having.
Yeah.
And there was a contest through the town. I don't know what the prize, I don't care, I don't think anybody cares what the prize was, but yeah, it looked like fun.
All right, a couple of things we should follow up on from last week. One is the Goodwill Road request to sell deed, easement, whatever, land, to allow the recently constructed garage to sit a portion of, or encroach onto town land.
I say we don't. He was well aware that he needed a permit to build anything there. He'd been in front of the ZBA before. He'd had a permit before. He knew the rules. He needs to move it.
I agree.
It's an add-on to a garage. It's not a giant structure. It's not gonna be a hardship. Nope, and he's a builder. He knows how to run a drill and take the thing apart and move it somewhere else. Seriously.
I know.
When I
Just like the
think-
way you phrase
like I
things
said-
sometimes.
On a serious note.
Yeah.
It's bad enough when we have people who didn't realize they were building in their setbacks. Or
Exactly.
this gentleman had already been through the process with a porch or addition-
Something else.
addition,
He knows,
A
the-
house.
whatever. it
he knows
was.
building permits.
But he'd
and-
been through our town hall,
Yeah.
that, and then just arbitrarily puts this thing up. So
Yeah.
He didn't think it was a big deal.
I think, I'm just gonna say,
Yeah.
move it.
Yeah, sorry, what was that,
Yes.
Ron?
He scored the trifecta.
No campfire permit, watering lawn, and building without a permit.
All in one day.
The trifecta.
That's called a trifecta?
Yes.
Oh, Ron.
He said
It's a
it.
hat trick. It was a hat
Oh,
trick.
that's right,
Yeah.
he did mention that word, yeah. So,
But it's, if we
Yeah.
don't draw a line, I mean,
Yeah.
and this.
and
this is
and
a-
I'll tell you this, if all three of us agreed that we should do it, we then have to bring this to planning board, they have to chime in, then we have to have two public hearings, because again, we're deeding public land. I don't see the public or the planning board supporting this
Nope.
any more than this board.
And whether it's town land or somebody else's property, people quickly learn, oh, take 2 feet of somebody else's land, and then we'll just go and say, oh, well, just let me buy
We
it.
didn't know.
Well,
He- That's kind of how I look at it. If he did that on my land, would I just go say, okay, well, I'll sell you this little piece?
No,
No.
no.
It's like-
So,
Anyway, so we're in agreement, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
no action.
yes. He needs
If
to
he-
move it.
If he wants to go to the ZBA,
well, he can't,
well, he can get a setback variance, but he
either
still
way,
can't
he's
go
gotta
into our
move it
land.
in, he's gotta
He's
move it
already
into his
on-
setback.
Right, he has to move it off of our land.
Which he has to move it off our land, and then he'll qualify for ZBA, maybe. My suggestion to him is move it
But
Whatever
prior
it
to
is.
going to ZBA, he needs to get the portion of it up.
off our land.
Exactly.
So for sure, you know, won't be big enough.
Well, it's not just inches over.
No,
It's-
speed.
Yeah, and I mean, realistically,
I went down and saw, I went drove down.
yeah, so did I.
Yeah.
And like, he said he's building it for a boat.
Yeah, both.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's a long garage, but however big his boat is,
It's a
if he
big boat.
pulls it out of the garage, he can't get out of the garage without being into the street.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's,
It's not our problem.
Yeah, whatever. He needs
all
to
right,
move it.
so we're in agreement on that.
Yes.
So, basically, we're not gonna have any, we're not gonna
No.
take any action, so
No.
just enforce the
Yeah,
rules.
We're clear.
Okay,
Came in, we'll start enforcement action as always tomorrow. Thank you.
all right, and just follow up on the, did you put water committee on your,
I do, I was gonna
all right, I'll let you go into the town manager's report then.
Okay, in order of where I have, the energy audit was completed on the town building. It's a very thick document. Yeah, and it's technical and but was done. I'm not sure what the conclusions are, but it's quite in-depth.
There were some
Um,
immediate suggestions in there.
There was, and I didn't read through them. Then there's the energy audit on our public works facilities, sewer, water, is gonna start on Thursday. That's all the way a
Nice.
grant process, and they'll be traveling, and anything that uses electricity in those facilities will be, so we'll be getting a report on that as well.
That's grant funded.
And that's grant funded, yeah. So I think NH, I'm sure like the co-op and DES is actually going overseeing it. It came through.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and that came as a result of that asset
Asset
management
Yep.
report that we had done, and that led to this
Yeah, so it's all
free
good.
energy audit, the
Right.
energy audit grant. So that's awesome.
So the water update on the water tank, we had a report from Weston Sampson
Yeah.
that
Yeah, what-
basically listed out, confirmed we have serious issues, and they did list all of what could be done. There's it left more questions than answers, I think is safe to say. However, having said that, one good spot was I did hear from Andrea Smith, who is the regional director of our the North Country Regional Commission, and to confirm that the fact that we may be looking to put a tank someplace else than what we, other than what I applied for in that grant, it doesn't matter to them. So it's, as long as we're making progress towards, we keep the original goal and solution in mind to solve our main pressure zone water issues.
So it does need to be in the main pressure zone?
It does.
I mean,
That's the way I read it. I mean,
Okay.
But it was part of the original grant, so they're not concerned about that. So we can continue with our
I am.
$500,000 dollars, which we know won't do it, but it can be
Well,
used.
there's $1 million towards a tank in the main pressure zone,
So
but it
further
doesn't have to be a
engineering,
voice
right,
book.
doesn't have to be a voice book. So we're gonna, what I need the board to do, I think I've steered the ship as far as I can. This is really, really a town decision now after St. Sampson, and there's a lot of work done, but it's some big, very big decisions have got to be made. And
I read through this, but I tried to get on Zoom and I couldn't find the link. Then I had a meeting, another Zoom at work at 3:30. So I tried from 3 to 3:30 and I realized it's probably on the webpage and I didn't get there. Can you sum it up? I read through this thing. There are 3 options. What was there? They never gave one.
well, they weren't, you have to understand what they were tasked on doing.
Yeah.
We had questions about whether the data that was used in our 2018 report from Oil Tanner, it just didn't, things didn't make sense. So they independently took a look at everything, and for the most part, and Ron and Dave can chime in here if they choose, but I think that in a lot of areas, they agreed with Oil Tanner. There were some stark differences. Number one, the tank water, the bioflow that's available out of the Forest Ridge tank. I'd never heard them numbers before. I know David had said for years that there's plenty, but no number was assigned to it. And so that the drawdown, but the areas that are really lacking is the, what do they call it? Availability, what is it?
The equalization.
The equalization thing, in other words, what they make, have the ability to make, and what peak demand draw is, that equalization factor is definitely almost non-existent. So that requires additional storage. And they're saying that the additional storage should parallel your existing tank location. They really steered away from, they didn't steer away. They did not spend a lot of time talking about the proposed tank in South Peak, which I know we pressed them, but it wasn't part of it. They touched on it, but it wasn't part of and then, OJ, you asked the question, I think, and I'm not sure how that was answered, but I think Ron and I talked briefly today. I didn't get a chance to talk to Dave, but I think there is some validity to the South Peak tank. I do. I think, yes, it's going to present, the South Peak tank is going to present challenges, albeit keeping it fresh and stored, but with the technology today, we should be able to solve that. But to me, if the town's going to spend a couple of $1 million bucks, or God knows how much, then I would think partnering over there in the first instance, still not going to address Route 3, but we aren't currently in a building room on Route 3. It's going to come. There's no doubt about that. But I think the 3 critical areas that Weston and Sampson identifies, I believe, like lawyers, engineers have different opinions, but basically the Weston Sampson report hovers around the same thing. Weston Sampson said, go here, there. They are saying that the elevation is not correct. It should be someplace else on the Route 3 side. So, but immediate building crisis, not a crisis, the building challenge that we have right now is we have 3 hotels sitting in the wings waiting for us to make a decision. We may have made it, and the decision that the fire chief has put out is put your water on site and build your hotel. But now the stuff that's popped up about equalization and even just the regular drinking water supply, I think it sounds like at peak, like we're seeing more and more of, and this goes on for another year, and we're really challenged on water demands in this community. So
I think so too.
but I think the board's going to give, the board is going to give us direction. I'm Ray Corber, myself, probably Dave, and fire chief. I'm going to plan on trying to meet with them this week. Ray Corber does have some ideas on maybe next steps that he can kind of shepherd us, that we can give to the board.
Well, when you have that meeting, I would like to attend.
Okay.
And if the other 2 members want to, should be open, but we'd have to post it.
If all 3 of you want to do it, I mean, we have. Doesn't have
Yeah, I don't want to drag Ray here for I
We
mean,
can,
it could be a public meeting, but not a Board of Selectmen Monday night. meeting.
Almost okay, would be a work session.
It'd be a work session. Public can be invited. If we're all there, the public can be there. But it won't be for public comment. It'll just be to listen to us talk.
What did the water committee decide upon? The water committee, did they make any suggestions?
No, it was just questions. I mean, it took an hour and a half to do the presentation and question and answers, and
The committee,
there's no like real discussion amongst the committee. It was more asking Weston and Sampson
yeah,
questions.
the,
I came out of it thinking I had more questions instead of more answers, especially related to that South Peak tank. I mean, if that can be in the main pressure zone and it can be at the same height as the Forest Ridge tank, it seems to me like that could be a real viable solution. And their answer was that they didn't look at any specific solution to say yes or no, as much as just what the problem is and what the maybe the priorities are. And their first priority wasn't the main pressure zone; it was the Village of Loon zone, which again, that surprised me.
yeah, because of the potential demand there. Well, they did make some definitives. They did say, in the report, as I recollect, that the town should take serious steps to limit, if not stop, construction above 975 feet, or 150 feet, or
950, yeah.
950 feet. And the other thing was, it might mean that the hotels should be put on hold, given the current water situation, something to that effect. So there was some definitive from the data that they currently have, without
They said Green Village first, second, Indian Head second, and the Main third.
Yeah.
Is what they said, but
And they didn't really want to go, although they did, Jeff Laporte did say that if that tank was there and it wasn't the size that he was told it was, 250,000 or whatever, plus then that would definitely, with the installation of a pressure reducing valve, that water would be available on a fire flow event. It would cycle in.
Yeah, and again-
Which Dave Benson from Oil Canada, he said that's been pretty consistent. Question is that something, you know, the town, and again, Ron and I, and just talked briefly today, and maybe it's something the town should consider, is to make moves to see if we can partner up with the folks at South Peak and get that tank in. It isn't gonna hurt the system. It's gonna
Right,
do nothing but help.
Before we do that, I want to make sure we have a plan to solve the whole problem and that's part of it, because again, my thought is not to have to or help pay for, build a tank over there and still have to put another tank in the main pressure zone, right? Because that one's only gonna work as an emergency on a pressure reducing valve in a fire flow situation, but we still need one for the everyday ups and downs. One tank should solve both of those problems, in my mind.
I think that's where the crutch comes in. I don't think it's a one tank addition fix.
is it there?
That's what
No, probably not, because you've got 3 different zones and 3 different elevations, yeah. That's-
No, I'm not saying for all 3 zones, but in the main pressure zone, we have the force ridge tank. That's all we have. If we put in the South Peak tank, but that's only helping the main pressure zone in a fire flow situation, we still need another tank in the main pressure zone.
which would be the force.
But it also, you only have 17,000 gallons available for dirt in the equalization. So storage will help that, or water conservation. Remember that discussion?
Right.
Yeah.
If
In
we
the
could,
main pressure.
if we could put one more tank in the main pressure zone at the same elevation as the force ridge tank,
It would increase your equalization in your fire flow availability
right.
and emergency storage,
Right.
all 3 categories.
And if that one tank were on that side of the river, I mean, I don't know what the pipes are under the river and, you know, what the hydraulics are, but if that second tank were over there, it might not completely solve the
Correct.
problem up on Route 3, but it would go a long way to fixing everything down here. And you know, I don't want to simplify the 8-inch pipe solution, but if we,
That's not gonna be an easy one.
I know.
And it might help down here in town, but it's not gonna help Route 3 or Loon Village,
Right.
or up on that end of it.
That's
You know,
right.
so
You're looking at
you're
3
probably,
tanks.
like they said, you're looking at 3 tanks. And eventually.
Or expanded storage
Right, but
Yeah,
on
not
your
3,
existing tank.
not
And
3.
and Ray Corbin had a good point when he said, what the town needs to do is look at what their level of
What level of
services that they
service?
want to provide.
Yeah.
If you say, well, we're at our level of service, and like Ron said, you want to build a hotel, put the water on here, that's your level of service right there, then you're not.
And
But
that could be
it all depends on what you want to do.
the discussion is if the town decides that we are at our level of service to everybody, including private homes, we're there. And if above 950, it's the home moment, you're on your own. Just like rural with a drilling rig, you know, and we aren't stopping the building. It's just that we are at our level of service, and that might be the answer. That's above staff. That's, you know, that's the town.
Watch the lawsuits pour in.
Well, there's you
I
can
don't
set
think
your
so.
level of service. You can do that.
You can.
Yeah, but if I, devil's advocate here, if I paid a couple $100,000 for a piece of land somewhere, knowing that in 5 years when I'm ready, I can build my house, and now all of a sudden I can't.
You can
because
build it.
Now all of a sudden you're not gonna provide the water that I was
That's
counting on 5 years ago when I
You can.
bought my land?
You absolutely can.
Yeah, there's no
I
inherent.
mean, I know that we can. I
Right.
just see it as, be in a slippery slope with some of the developers that have already.
I think it's
Express
typical in
this
any
course
person
with
that they
us.
do.
Good one.
So in the original South-Peak negotiations and development, DES notification about the permit for the booster pump station, that homes above a certain level for that DES ruling could put in a well on their property and utilize that well until such time as the municipal water system could provide level of service, then they could discontinue the well. That's in that, the original.
So it was already contemplated.
In
This is
South-Peak.
gonna be a big nut
Yeah.
for the town. This is a big
Yeah.
improvement. There's not a
Right.
single thing on there that isn't in the millions of dollars. Okay, so, so the town could do that. Now, how do you do that? You query the town, or the elected decision makers can say that? I mean, and that would be it. That would give us step level, that in the planning department, when they come in, we just say, here's your house, but sewer, yes, sewer can, we can tell Dean that.
Sewer water's on you, yeah.
Water's the big thing. And even some of the roads.
I think Ray had some really good points in his memorandum here, and I think a follow-up meeting would be
Okay, how do you want to?
appropriate. This is how I would envision this. First of all, I don't want a committee of 17
No.
to work on the technical aspects. I'm thinking if it's Nate and Dave, you, Ray Corber, and I would like to join that, but open it up to the other 2 board members, and come up with either a recommendation to the board or an option A, option B, option C type thing, or maybe a mix of those. Maybe you're going to recommend, establish a rule that says no water service guaranteed above 950 feet. This is the level of service in these zones. However, but then say, okay, well, option A would be to, build this tank in this location, put in this pressure reducing valve in the Loon Village. Come up with a series of some goals or options, however that committee wants to do it. But present that to the board so that we're not starting with this, theoretical discussion about, well, if we put the tank over there, but get the engineers, the water department, and let's come up with something.
Yeah, I'd like to just not to negate the water committee, is give them the option to get together by themselves or whoever and establish one recommendation if they want to share a recommendation. I don't want to negate that.
Also, the water committee originally formed to discuss water meters.
Yeah.
And that's what happened this last meeting. Western Sam did the engineering part of it, and they got thrown into, well, what about water meters? And this, and they had no idea about
Right.
that part of it, because
Right.
they were here to talk about that. And they, like you said, of course, said that, well, we didn't really, weren't part of our scope to tell you what your next step was. And if you remember, Hoyle and Tanner did the same thing. We did one study, and then they said, well, if you want to know what our recommendations are, that's another study. So, I mean, we just keep going into studies, $30,000 a piece.
I just don't want
to
to, yeah.
Well, what's
I
our
think that
what
the
they
water
know
committee
in the
was-
end,
Wait,
so
finish.
than what we do, I mean, we can take where we want to go, but they can look at all the numbers and all that stuff. They're the engineers, that's what they look at, and they got thrown off base a little bit, I think, just because the water committee people were saying, well, what about this, and what about that, and they said, well, we don't know anything,
Right.
that's,
Right. It was way outside of the scope of what
Right.
they were
Right.
asked to do. So, did you want to?
No, I
And
just,
they did say pretty much, I mean, some of the things were the same as oil and Canada, but some things were kind of vastly different, or numbers that we had. But you're gonna, I would assume you're gonna have that, if you had 3 or 4 engineer companies.
Right.
It's like you have 3
as long as
attorneys in the
they're okay, I just didn't want
Right.
to remiss.
You know,
3 attorneys, 3 engineers.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not looking at dismissing the water committee, but I'm thinking that it's the town staff, the town engineer that should be looking at focusing, and certainly bring the water committee
But
if
I
they
think
wanted.
the water committee still has an important job, because Water meters.
Water meters,
No matter what this town does, in my opinion, still needs to be addressed. You need
Water
to
meters.
meter the water you're using. And that's a job in itself. So the committee has got plenty of, and whether they implement it or don't implement it, that's an important job.
Right, and I didn't say dismiss,
Yeah.
I said remiss. I don't want to be remiss.
Yeah,
Right,
right.
right.
No, I don't think they
And
need to
making
be
them-
dismissed. I think,
They should be apprised of what your,
yeah,
Yeah.
the direction you're
Yeah.
going, because it could maybe influence
Yeah,
what they're doing with water meters.
all right.
because even if you expand the storage, you still want to conserve. I
Oh my
mean,
God.
you do, yes. So it's,
Except
So
for
when
the,
are
except
we-
for the slow months when the water's stagnating, and somebody to water your lawns in November.
Right, we haven't had slow months.
Oh, that's true, too.
You think you would, but
That's right.
700,000 this weekend. I mean, and I was really surprised that it was only 700,000 this weekend because the amount of people that were around.
Oh, my
They're all stuck in
goodness.
traffic. They ain't
Exactly.
Any restaurant or anything.
5.5
they're using the
hours
side
to
of
go
the
to
cake.
town.
I was gonna say, it's because all the public restrooms are closed.
Yeah.
That's true.
I had friends that left Conway. I wish they'd called, I would have told them not to. 5.5 hours. They
To go
stopped
across,
twice to go to Batham in the Woods because there was no other option. 5.5 hours. Holy cow.
Took me an hour to get
It's only
to
what,
Holy cow.
38 miles?
88 miles.
From Conway to-
5 hours.
Yeah, 38 miles or something like that, yeah. Less than 40. 5.5 hours.
You better fill up.
I had to go to Littleton to pick up the kids and I went over Easton into Franconia and then up and came back the same way.
I guess people
I
were
thought of that when I was sitting in the
walking
middle of
beside their
lunch.
cars, they were moving so slow, they were just walking over.
And next weekend's the holiday weekend. It's
Let's,
gonna be
uh,
worse.
Okay,
Let's move on. So
Sorry.
let me know,
All right.
let
But before
all
we
three of
move
us
on,
know when that meeting
all right,
is.
so,
when are we voting to put water meters on the warrant?
well, it's in discussion, I would hope it's for next March, so there's a time period in which if there's gonna be warrant articles,
Well,
Right.
gotta start reminding the committee of that.
That water committee will need to make a recommendation to the budget committee on,
Who's the
Before
chair of
December.
that committee?
I think I am.
Okay, so I'd like to ask the chair to reconvene the committee and let them know that there is a deadline and we need to do. Can I say, should I get off the pot?
No, you
Even
can say
though
make a
we're recording,
recommendation
Make a
in
recommendation
time.
in time for the warrant. Thank you. Same thing. He just says it better.
I don't know, you said it pretty well.
Exactly.
Okay, my next thing is the progress on, is proceeding nicely on Maple Street.
Oh, nice.
I think that's gonna be a very nice street when it's done.
Oh, good.
So hopefully pavement will go down in the next couple of weeks. Guys have finished, and our guys are doing the curb straightening and they're dressing up the sidewalk
Manholes
now.
and things, yeah.
And then they still have, I think, 2 more catch basins to raise. And then, yeah.
Then we just wait on the pavers, right? Good.
Yep, so, oh yeah, they gotta set the coded, handicap.
Oh, yeah.
footings and stuff.
Good enough.
So we tank update, we talked about that. Outdoor dining is Monday, we discussed that in the NH audit. We covered all my stuff, with the exception we should go into non-public and discuss that.
Mhm.
Because the,
Riverfront Park,
nothing further
No more
update
news?
right now, not yet. today.
can't cut trees yet.
Can't cut trees yet, okay.
Still
Have they
waiting.
come back to do this environmental sampling? or
Yeah, that's-
scheduled.
That's done now. I think we're waiting on no, they haven't come in and done the test of the borings.
The borings,
They
yeah.
have not been interviewed, that I'm aware of.
They're
Are they-
supposed-
Aware, sorry, are they aware that we are on a deadline with
Yes,
our,
they're very aware.
They
Okay.
know,
okay,
they know
Discuss that.
our grant? Yeah.
October 21, isn't it?
October of next, yes,
2020.
Yeah. so, okay, October 1.
No, yeah, No.
It's October 1,
October 1, I think.
yeah, so,
Yeah.
okay,
All
thank you.
right, we request for qualifications for sewer.
Ray's working
Is he working on
that
a
with
proposal
the
for that?
RFQ,
Okay,
along with, so we've got a lot on his.
want to bring that to us before that gets sent out?
Yes, absolutely.
Because I want to make sure that
Yep.
we discuss it and know what our steps are and agree or not agree to do that.
Yep.
And then The thing at your bottom was here, outdoor dining ends Monday, October 12th.
Yep, you guys
So do we
want to
want
continue
to,
that discussion?
do we want to continue that discussion? Vote on it? Any discussion now
I think we should extend it.
till?
That's a hard one. I mean,
I
November
mean, if the
15th
people
is
are
the
gonna,
date, yeah.
guests are gonna decide. We can say February 2nd, but they're not gonna do it when it's freezing cold out, so it doesn't matter. It's gonna be,
I mean,
That's Groundhog Day. though.
there we go.
is it really?
It is, that's right.
I'd say November 29th, that's a Sunday. That's the end of November. That gives them a month of November.
Outside seating?
Yeah.
If the weather holds. I mean, obviously, if it's snowing, they're not gonna sit people outside. However, if they've got the heaters, and they can still sit them outside.
Extend a month,
It gets them through,
12th to
Um,
November 12th, so you want to go?
or we can do November 15th, that's a Sunday. Gets them through a weekend.
Extend a month at a time.
What is it,
Thoughts?
November 15th?
November 15th is a Sunday. How do you feel about that?
That's fine. I think after that, it's gonna be either too cold
Yeah.
or not busy enough to make
Right.
anything beyond that irrelevant.
I'll make a motion that we extend the outdoor seating until November 15th, or
Can you say the
Governor's-
currently permitted?
the currently permitted,
outdoor
thank you,
seating?
outdoor seating through November 15th, or until the governor's COVID order ends, whichever comes first.
What date did you say?
November 15th,
November.
The month. roughly.
Okay.
Well, it's a little more than
No,
a
of
month.
course.
I thought you were talking a whole year. It's like,
No.
5 weeks.
November 15th,
Right.
2020. Yep.
All right.
But I mean, that is a little shorter than these folks, but we only talked about their indoor.
Right, their input thing is
This
different.
is separate.
And if
This is separate.
someone else comes with a proposal for, again, emergency thing where they're not gonna
Yeah.
go to the planning board for a permanent
Yeah,
change.
Right.
So November
They can
15th.
come.
So now all these,
November
we
15th.
have all the outdoor seatings registered, so we could send them all a letter or an email or something and let
Probably
them
just
know.
swing by.
Or swing by, okay. All right, that's my motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye. cool, I'm glad we did that.
Very good. Glad that was unanimous. And I didn't have anything else besides that. Yeah, Jane, anything?
Any letters of interest for the building committee?
I haven't seen anything yet.
No, Debbie Salino came in and said she was interested, but I haven't received the notice, but she's putting something together.
Cool. All right. I'm gonna mention in here, we got a letter from the school board, or
Yes.
from Judith McGann, I should say.
Oh, I just saw it.
Glad you brought that
I'm
up.
gonna read it.
Go ahead.
Lincoln Selectmen, Woodstock Selectmen, so it's going to both boards. At the last Lincoln Woodstock Cooperative Board meeting, the cooperative funding formula review process was brought to the board's attention. The board discussed if the funding formula committee should begin the review process and meetings during the 2021 school year. The formula's last review and change was in 2015. In 1988, the school funding committee established a review of the funding formula to occur every 5 years. This was based on RSA 195.8, which states no changes can be made until after the expiration of the 5-year period at which the last change was made to the cost apportionment formula. Due to the current COVID conditions, where large meetings would be challenging, the school board is recommending postponing this process for at least another year. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact this office. Regards, Judy. I wholeheartedly agree with postponing a year because of the COVID conditions.
Because of COVID, and also at the legislative committee is
Yeah.
looking at school funding. You've been getting from Jane.
Yes,
Coyne
yeah.
enforcement.
That's a good.
Okay, that's,
a good point.
and there's some pretty drastic things, you know,
Yeah.
one of which, I got a call from a couple of city managers, town city managers. One of the things being discussed in that legislative committee is restructuring to a $12 per thousand assessed value statewide, eliminating the local tax,
Right,
but it would be a $12 per thousand whether you're in code
Across the board.
enforcement,
Yep,
of assessed property tax, still way to fund schools, that's just one, and it seems to have wheels.
it does.
So, so there's a lot of changes coming, I think a year is going, because this thing is silently running behind the scenes, and I think that's why I keep sending it to you folks, because I
Yep.
think even though it's a school issue, I think the boards,
Well, funding it is a
But
town
local-
issue,
the town-
absolutely.
downside has to keep aware of. Some of it's scary,
It is.
some of what they're saying is pretty scary.
I agree with postponing it for a year.
But, well, is there, with the caveat that, so nothing's unchanged, we continue it.
It has to be.
We
It
can't
has to.
change
You
it.
can't
Okay.
change it without a
we
meeting,
just
so,
go one
right,
at a time.
right. There's no caveat there that it can't change without meeting. So could you respond to Judith for us?
Yes.
I think I've had more meetings since COVID than I before with Zoom.
You've got the,
But I
that
think
letter,
that
you can give
would
copy
be
of
here
it.
for sure.
You've got it.
Email.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jane, yeah,
Email.
she has it, yeah.
I'll forward it to her.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. I had,
And the other question I had was the burn ban. Is that lifted for campfires, like completely?
Yeah, we're in line now with the governor's order there. We have category 1 and 2.
Which is like backyard campfires, not
In a
bonfires.
steel,
or brush.
in a steel ring, right?
it
It's
has
still
to be in
ring.
a
And
ring.
fire resistant, yes.
Okay.
Campgrounds were never stopped.
Right.
There won't be any brush piles being burned.
Right.
Or out of the crowd.
Makes sense. Okay, I just want to
That
make
was
sure.
lifted
Before snow comes.
last Friday.
Is this, the sign up here still say Lincoln band?
Yes,
I do, yes.
I think it is, so maybe we can change that.
I wouldn't.
Was it, I'll have to read it, I'm not sure if it's at the fires too, or just. the,
Outside fires. No,
Fires
it
on
says
public lands.
it's watering. It's still water outside.
Well, it's
Wait, I think it was
fire,
a burn.
There's water and fire.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ordinances or whatever.
all right.
Oh.
If the burning ban is gone,
Take
just
that.
take that off the sign and leave the water ban is still in effect.
But they need a ring, right? Correct? They need one of the rings.
Yeah, a fire,
And they
what do you
need a
call it?
permit.
Fire resistant ring.
A ring and a permit. So I want to be careful what we say up there because it was, oh, we can have fires.
Yeah, no, it has to have.
Well, we're not going to say,
Yeah,
go
we're not
ahead
gonna
and
say
light a
you can't
fire.
have
we'll
fires,
just
you're
do
just
it
gonna
all.
take the room off. All right,
I had a,
go ahead.
With the cricket.
Yeah, I
so
was gonna say.
can you, I'm looking for this again, but I can't see the CPI where it is for the new construction on the airport. Can you show me in this? This is the only copy I have, 20 to 25. Can you show me where that's in there? That would be awesome. The other question I had, did we get any legal advice back regarding the levy? Peter, you want to ask him regarding the letter that we got from Mr. Slang?
We answered Mr. Zakakini's
Yeah,
questions and he acknowledged he received them and I've heard nothing.
nothing back.
Nothing
Okay,
back.
all right, so
We send him the report
okay,
and I got a response from, and
thank you so much.
we're waiting on a response from Corps of Engineers.
Yeah.
But he was happy with that we had asked. So,
And what I want to ask too, which is you had mentioned that you're going to have a full-time fire station, much to my chagrin. Too much.
when-
Are you talking?
we're gonna-
wait,
we're
You're gonna have a
gonna-
full-time fire station, much to my chagrin.
Well, we're gonna
I want to
apply
know,
for the grants.
yeah, that grant, as far as that is concerned, is that the one you talked about already, the $300,000 grant, or is it,
It will be in the millions.
it will be in the millions?
Yeah.
Oh, and it will be.
It'll be a police fire.
So,
It's just, we're just in the apply for the grant stage. And I'm gonna propose it during the budget process, that's all. And I don't know where it's gonna go from there, but I'm gonna put it in the budget process
with grants.
with grants. So if you don't get a grant, we don't go.
Oh, okay. I had to clarify that because I had people asking, well, I thought it was a $300,000 grant he was going to get to build a full-time fire
No.
department and use that. And it was like, well,
It's two
that would be
different
circumventing the political
Right, and
process.
And then the other thing that's coming through the process
Yeah,
is we are, the PD's looking to, through grant process, it's the same thing as personnel. Through
Good.
through the thing, and also the fire, we're gonna go for a
Good.
fire grant We're still working on the numbers of what that would be, but that would be to hire full-time personnel for the grant program that will be coming up. And there is a cricket,
I
it's gonna
see it.
chirp all night.
Yeah.
Uh,
Good thing I'm not sleeping here.
The grant program that's gonna be coming out the end of October for the first time in, I guess I've never heard of this, but grant public safety personnel to if the town and to expand either the police department or add full-time. It's 3 years, 100% grant salaries, benefits, and retirement for 3 years. You can't get started cheaper than that. So what I'm gonna do, if that grant comes before, we heard it's gonna be in the end of October, we'll do the grant. And then obviously, nothing would act on that until it went to town meeting. Oh, well, get through the budget process, a warrant article approved by the Board of Selectmen and or the Budget Committee, and then it goes to town for vote. So there's no commitment, but we're gonna go through the process and have put it up for open discussion on town, obviously, because I do believe it's time. And the people, and then
I
the
didn't know
fire
that.
station, totally separate, or the fire police station, if it was to be, or actually the committee, whether it's police station, police station, Plum, fire station, Plum, or police station, town hall, fire station, that's that committee that you're forming. I would hope that that's what they would address in this grant. It's not the same program, but some of those grants are in the 70 to 75% range. So you would do your complex for
Right.
through the USDA is usually the grant. So it's two different programs.
There are two.
So there are two discussions that you'll hear coming out of my office into the budget process. We don't have the numbers. I mean, Ron and Chad are working on that now.
So I
Okay.
think this would be a perfect opportunity to delve into combining the two fire departments.
You take that on, because I have made the statement on Butch will never champion that again. But you feel free. I'm just talking about the town of Lincoln. Okay, but so I
It would
hear
be
you.
much, much better for this community, budget-wise, coverage-wise, community-wise, to have a combined fire department.
So
Absolutely.
300,000, say, whatever we do with it, the taxpayers decide what to do with it. We have to continue, according to the grant, to fund it afterwards. Usually most grants say you
Yes.
have to continue
Yes.
to fund it.
Now,
Okay,
it's my understanding, and I can clarify this, but
okay,
the police department, you're obligated. I know for a fact that you have to continue the employment for a period of years. After if it's a 3-year, 100%. And I'm talking over my head here because I haven't seen the particulars. My understanding, and Ron, jump in here, that the fire doesn't come with those same rules, but we don't know what those rules are. So, but most typically, when you get granted, if they're paying 100% for 3 years of a full-time, then they want to see the town continue it for usually.
oh, yeah,
I heard that the fire has different rules, but
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, it's typically it is, but I couldn't talk tonight specifically about what that would be.
all right, thank you for that clarification.
And the 300,000, I wish you, I don't know where that came from. 300,000
I think it's-
wouldn't even touch it. It's
I think that was last year's number, wasn't
it's
it?
like
Was
last
it
year's
last year
numbers,
now?
but these numbers are going to be higher than that,
well,
obviously.
The better part of.
So we'll know more.
That was 2 years ago.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
okay.
actually 2 years ago, I think.
You're right.
it all went. And we were trying to do it as a per diems. and
Right.
These would be full-time
Yeah.
personnel. Chad, I'm not sure what his numbers are yet, but he's looking
50.
to expand, just given on how busy they are, which would include probably 2 to 3 more cruises. You know, I mean, we're,
Well, they're rocking on the weekends.
Yeah,
Oh,
so-
my gosh.
but the grants are going to be very competitive. Obviously, the government's paying 100%, but we'd have nothing. So the thinking being that we should move at least up into the top tier
Right.
consideration if the town wanted to move in that direction. So there'll be a lot of information coming through the budget process, and then hopefully the townspeople would get a chance to chime in through public hearings, and then that's the way that would work. If we even get approval. I mean,
It's gonna be highly competitive.
I'm sure.
Sure, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's the whole story as we stand today.
Thank you for repeating. Thank you. Oh,
Anything else?
fiber optics, Steve's on the planning board, can I still do it?
Do what?
Be on the planning board for fiber, did we decide upon that yet?
Well, the fiber optics, let me tell you where we're at. Fiber optics, right out in the street. It's already
Okay.
strong.
Oh, okay.
No, I think you're talking the cell
I think you're
tower.
talking- yeah.
Cell
We're
Cell
seeding for
tower.
the cell tower.
You talking about cell tower? Because I will talk about fiber optic. We
Okay.
have, we have gone through a process to get fiber optic into this building, which the PD needs it for the dispatch center, and we needed to just do what we're doing now. In the process, we were forced to take a look at our whole home system, and we competitively went out to bid. Okay. We went out
You don't
to,
have
for,
one.
we went out
There
for
you
a
go.
quote.
Thank you, Art.
We went out
Oh,
Oh,
that's fine.
Almost.
on camera.
Sorry.
On camera. But anyway,
Killed the cricket.
we went out for a quote on our current vendor and Consolidated or Spectrum. Okay. The bundling of fiber optic with Spectrum and the new phones system saves us about almost $7,000 a year in premiums. So you see that coming through the process. So we're gonna I'm gonna pull the trigger, move forward with that, just for the savings alone.
Good, because I still can't get on
Yeah.
the internet yet.
So that, now I know what she's talking about, the tower thing and
Was it just how
so, but the fiber optics are already in the street, so,
Well, good.
okay.
Good. Yeah, thank you for that. For your question, it's a very valid question because
Sorry, I'll email you from my phone.
there is either conflict or perceived conflict in having two related people on that planning board hearing the same case, because technically, the planning board members are not supposed to talk to each other about that issue outside of the meetings.
Right.
Well, when you're living with the person that you're not supposed to talk to, that's, it's hard.
It's easy for me.
Yeah,
you're used to
just because
it.
he doesn't get a word in edgewise.
That too.
Okay, gang. I think
He's not wrong.
I think we hit the red line.
But anyway,
There's a perceived.
there's a perceived perception and
Yeah,
that's up to
this
you.
is,
Yeah.
the towers
Well, I'm not,
traditionally are,
What's that?
I'm not married, but you live with him.
okay. But typically, I would ask, we should go by the numbers because these cell towers, as in others, but cell
Right.
towers in particular,
Err on the side
They-
of caution.
yeah, they have to be done, it has to be done by the numbers because typically towns will get challenged if they don't follow procedure. and
Oh, yeah. I think
Stuff
we
like
might
that
be-
is,
yeah, when
stuff
come
like
up.
that is very
So anyway,
important. It's gotta be the best you can.
When is that meeting?
It's not scheduled.
It's not scheduled
scheduled
yet,
yet?
but I kept forgetting to bring it up for
Yeah.
you two. And I
It's
thought I
really a
should,
plan,
so.
but
Well, when the meeting gets scheduled, let's have the discussion and
Yeah.
it's the
Right.
decision.
I think that's next Wednesday.
The cell tower?
She sent out a butters notices.
Oh.
Is it
okay.
next Wednesday?
I didn't hear about
The
it.
7th or the 14th?
It should be posted.
14.
All right.
I have school board.
I'll email you guys and confirm
It's the
that,
first,
but
Yeah.
it's
I
the
was
first
just
one.
asking about it.
It's the,
Those
I
are
mean, I could skip a school board meeting
A butters notice.
if I have to. I mean,
Yeah, I think it's gonna, well,
Yeah.
It is.
It
right,
is.
Ron?
it's
A
gonna
week
be a
from
Zoom
Wednesday.
meeting and I think it
On
would
the
be
14th.
well,
Yes.
I guess.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Tammy, I just don't want to put this.
I will, yeah, I'll send out an email to the chair and let him know that I won't be there.
I'm okay with that.
But you'll be,
I can sit here for the planning board
okay,
for that
okay.
on the 14th. Okay. I will send out an email to the chair of the school board and let him know. What time is that meeting? You know?
6.
Thank you.
All right, I had 3 other things.
Could you ask Carol to email me the info, the,
Three more.
I
when
know.
she emailed the planning board that,
Yep.
to give me that stuff, please, thank you.
All right, the first, let's do the easy one first.
All right.
To the inhabitants of the town of Lincoln in the county of Grafton, you are hereby notified to meet at the Lincoln Town Hall, 148 Main Street, Lincoln, New Hampshire, on Tuesday, the 3rd of November, 2020. The polls will be open between the hours of 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. to act upon the following subjects: to bring in your votes for President and Vice President of the United States, Governor, United States Senator, United States Representative, Executive Counselor, State Senator, State Representatives, and county officers. Given under our hands and sealed this first day of October, 2020. And we need to all sign this, setting that as the date and hours and location of the election.
And I will be,
Can't come quick enough.
I know. Yeah. Next thing is the end of Pleasant Street turnaround area that's on school land. Hammerhead. Do we have, or can we get a copy of the easement or license agreement or whatever it was that was signed that allows that? The school board, you know, the request that we got to allow a driveway, the school board is looking at that and doesn't have a copy of what was signed. And their attorney, if something has to be recorded with that, I don't know if it's a deed or an easement or a license, but whatever it is should be recorded, you know,
With
to
the
the
hammerhead at the end of Pleasant.
to the town of Lincoln, and if we can just get a copy of that. And then the final thing is
Should we
we,
forward that onto the school board when you find it?
I think so. Send it to Judith.
That'd be great.
and copy me on that. Or copy the whole board of selectmen on that, might as
And
well.
town manager,
Um,
yeah.
The final thing is we got a letter or email from Mike Bowden.
oh,
And
Yeah, can we discuss that now?
I've honestly not have, we just got this today, not had a chance to read it. However, I do know you've read it, and that this involves commentary
Reputation of someone other than a
about
board member.
the town employees.
Right.
And that cannot be discussed in public session, so I cannot read the letter in public session, but we will, as a board,
Read it.
look at this tonight and decide if there'll be any action taken.
okay.
And that was all I had. Anything else?
No, covered me.
All right, public, any public participation? Then,
Chief?
I'm gonna make a motion, we go into non-public. We're gonna get an update on, actually, there was nothing on that
No, I just.
Army Corps thing,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
We had the
There's
letter
nothing
from
on
Azarian.
CRBI thing. Nope. Then just the personnel
Well,
issue.
the letter that we turned back from the.
Village shop.
Oh, that was the other thing.
And we have a letter from David Azarian.
David is-
Yes.
Oh, yes, on the landing.
Yeah.
All right,
right.
so for one legal issue related to the landing, one legal issue related to real estate, and one personnel issue. How's that?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.